Welcome back, campers. This is Susan Check, your new camp director. This summer is going to look a little different. For one, Camp Director Chris is not in charge anymore. I'm sure the authorities will locate his body, him, soon. Speaking of, I want every body accounted for this year. Know that this is my objective. Every camper who comes to Camp Wanasleya will absolutely be returned to their parents by the end of the summer, if it's the last thing I do. Although I hope it's not. Nurse Burke has offered to help me keep track of all you little rugrats and face huggers, and so far, as of day 1, we have gone 0 days without a missing child. But we can't wait for that number to increase steadily. We must be diligent. Now for today's announcements. Make sure you head down to the pond for a nature lesson with Dr. Ripley. The subject is newts and other xenomorphs. Sounds thrilling. And we've got hot dog soup for dinner and a special first day of camp dessert for everyone, astronaut ice cream. Stay safe and stay alive.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Season 2 of Bunk 237, a horror movie podcast. We're calling this one Welcome Back to Camp, because we are back at the fictional camp that we invented to talk about horror movies, and it's Season 2. I am one of your hosts, Robin Zlotnick.
And I'm the other host, Tuyet and Robin. And our very cool guest today is my super old friend, but not physically old like in friendship old, Nate Balding from Werewolf Radar, the world's premier paranormal preparedness podcast. Find it out in the podcast ad, or just wait a few minutes until it finds you.
You can call me old physically too. That is accurate. You know.
No, but it's just like, if I call you old, then like I'm also old, and maybe we should just chill on that. You know what I mean?
Well,
we're all old.
You've still got some spry years ahead of you. Mine are long gone. They're left in the waste buckets of time.
Well, shit, speaking of fucking old shit, Robin, what movie are we watching today?
What an introduction. Well, this is the first episode of Season 2, so we had to start it off with a sequel, obviously. So we watched Aliens. Aliens, the very creatively named sequel to Alien.
I think it's the best. It's
the best
sequel name.
Came out in 1986, written and directed by James Cameron, of course. It starts 57 years after the events of the first Alien movie. Sigourney Weaver is back as Ripley. This time she fights several aliens, hence the title.
Oh, shit, you're right.
It's a major classic. So, Nate, Tuyet, tell me what your history with this movie, the franchise is, where it fits into your horror fandom.
Well, I just want to say, I in addition to many things that James Cameron basically pioneered in this area, in this era rather, just breaking with the whole numbering system. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Already out of the gate, just on the poster or the movie box, depending on how you saw it, already you know that you're in for something totally different. This ain't your granddaddy's part 2. This is just
So
more
true.
of the same, I guess. We've reached a plurality of Alien. I saw this, because when did this come out? It was like 86 or 87?
86. Mm-hmm.
I definitely saw it way too young, because my mother was a big fan of science fiction and horror movies kind of in general, but especially the Alien franchise was huge. She loved Ripley. I think that as a child, she more than once told me to get away from something, you bitch. And like
Wow, so this was like really ingrained in your childhood.
there are scenes from this movie that as a child woke me up startled in nightmares.
Oh man.
Yeah,
so how do you watch it now? What happens when you watch it now?
I watched it last night. And I got the extended edition. I don't know what the last one you guys saw was. The extended one is 2.5 hours, which is a lot longer than I remembered
I
it
watched
being.
the not
12 minutes?
extended
Yeah,
one,
that's
and
an
it was
extra
2 hours and 17 minutes.
Yeah,
it's an
it's-
extra 13 minutes. What's
Extra
happening
13
there?
minutes.
Although it really flew by, frankly. So I recommend either one.
Yeah.
I feel similarly that Aliens has been in my life, like my entire life, like the whole franchise. I don't know. I mean, it came out in 86. I was born in 82. I just feel I've seen this movie so many times.
I mean, the
in
first
so many
one came
different
out in
ways.
79.
Yeah, I've never known a life without
Wow.
the Aliens franchise.
Yeah, no, this is definitely like it's an
Interesting.
early memory for me, which is very strange.
I love that, but I'm also kind of sad. Like,
Yeah, were you scared of aliens? Was it scary when you saw it? Or were you like, fuck yeah, science fiction?
Well, I mean, I definitely saw it on VHS, so I wasn't in the movie theater as I guess I would have been
Gotcha.
5 or 6 years old, so it wasn't that formative. But yeah, no, there's definitely I mean, I guess we're not going scene by scene. I could spoil this thing. There's that
we
scene
spoil.
in the like medical lab when the aliens they're coming in through the ceiling.
Oh yeah.
And there's that scene where I think it's Hicks gets up there and he shines that flashlight and you just see them crawling forward. I used to have nightmares about that exact shot for so long.
that's a good shot because I
Yeah.
feel like that's been recreated in so many movies.
Oh, and it's such a
since.
crazy big reveal. Like,
Oh, yeah.
they're-
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
I thought about that as a horror movie thing where the character is doing something that you don't want them to do. Like we all know as an audience, it's in this, like something is happening, it's in the ceiling. And I watched, when I was rewatching it this morning, when he pushes up the little ceiling panel with his gun and then puts
Yeah.
his head up, like as
Yes.
a movie
Oh, yeah,
fan,
yeah.
you're like, don't put your head up there.
doing?
Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's as close as this movie gets to the, don't open that door, don't go down those stairs.
Right.
That you see typical of horror, because a lot of Aliens is kind of action blockbuster. You want to see the Space Marines get in the APC and go invade the nest, as folly as
Right.
that is.
I was thinking about how this movie came out in 86 and watching it now, like, is this movie like one of the reasons that there are so many relentless action movies? Like, it was this sort of an early film where it was just like a nonstop thriller, because I read some reviews from 1986 from when it came out, and all the reviews at that time period, movie audiences were like not ready for that.
Right.
Like people were nervous, it was uneasy, it was unsettling. And now we watch that and I think we're kind of conditioned to it. So I like, did this ruin us as a movie audience to like need like big explosions and just like did it ruin us a little bit?
It's possible.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I mean, I made a note that like you don't see you see the face huggers for the first time in like the lab tubes 43 minutes into the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is an over 2-hour movie, and I just feel like, people were surprised by the last hour of the movie, and I think that it's earned, by the time that they're there, you feel like it's been building up to this the whole time. But I don't know that it would be made in the same way today.
No, they would probably cut out the first act of this thing.
Right.
I read a thing that said
Right.
Apparently James Cameron, because he was trying to get Terminator done, and Arnold Schwarzenegger apparently had to do the Conan sequel, so it was in the interim he was working on the Aliens script, and the thing he turned in was like 90 pages long, and the first act had not been completed, but it got greenlit just based on that.
Wow. Amazing.
White men,
All that Cameron privilege.
Well, I did think about that and thinking that the way that Ripley as a character is written, I feel like when I was younger, it was like yeah, a lot of cool moms liked Ripley because she was like a strong, independent woman taking on the whole establishment and taking on all the aliens. And like, I think watching it now sort of as an adult in the lens of everything that's happened in the last 30 years since then, like how much more we know about the way men write women, we're so aware of that now. You know what I mean?
Right.
And like she is written in this sort of, I don't know, this sort of Tim Burton way where she's the only character and all the other characters are not that fleshed out. They're not that well rounded. They're all there just to serve her character. She is the only real person in this movie. Even like the other female characters, Ripley is kind of between Newt, like the young girl, and Vasquez, the super badass. Because I think like when men write women, it's either they're kind of like weepy willows, or they're sort of these like super tough badass women, these one-dimensional badass women that just like are so fucking tough they can't fucking talk to men or people at all.
They're basically men.
And so
in the way that they function.
Yeah.
Well, and there is kind of a thing too where they kind of soften Ripley with, and I hadn't until I watched it last night, and maybe it's only in the extended version. I hadn't remembered that apparently she had a daughter back on Earth who died 2 years before she gets taken out of cryo-freeze.
Right.
That is not
like,
in the extended or in the regular version that I watched.
Yeah, they mentioned she
That's so interesting.
she died at 66 years old. So Ripley and Newt is approximately her daughter's age.
That was my first question when she woke up and it was 57 years in the future. And she was like, oh, man, that was crazy. I'm okay now. And it's like, no, what about all of your friends and your family?
Yeah.
Like, don't you have questions? Like,
I had a question about this cat because she's like Jonesy. And I'm like, wait a second, hold on. Cats can't live that long. And I was like,
the cat was in the thing with her.
At the end of
cat was
Alien,
in the thing with her.
She takes Jonesy into the chamber.
Okay, I had forgotten that. I was like,
That was just some superhuman.
The one thing
ancient
that
cat.
was like very unbelievable to me was this fucking cat.
I like that she was smart enough to be like, you stay here. You're not coming with me.
It'd also be extra funny if there was some weird sci-fi reason why they could keep cats alive, but her daughter had to die at 66, presumably in some sort of medically advanced future where humans should be living hundreds of years, maybe.
So,
you can
we've only gotten as far as cats. Sorry. We're still trying to figure it out.
That addition of her daughter, I almost feel like that was kind of necessary because when she was like so automatically maternal with Newt, I was like, hold on, where is this coming from? Like, she doesn't have, just because she's a woman doesn't mean she has to be, a natural mom.
But see, I think that's the way men write women characters is like,
Right.
oh, all women are naturally maternal.
But it would have made sense to know that she had a daughter.
And that would have been a really different movie if she didn't have that maternal instinct and was just a total bitch to Newt.
Right.
She's like, this kid is fucking dead weight. You're right. Let's drop her and nuke this spot.
But on that topic, did we think that Newt was dead weight?
No, she was telling her where to go the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, they don't get out of that, the lab invasion without Newt leading them into the tunnels, where she of course gets captured like an idiot, dead weight ass
Like
fake daughter.
Idiot 7-year-old or whatever she is.
Fake daughter. Fake daughter's a really funny title for her. until they came up with a name for her, just like fake daughter in the notes.
Well, at the very end, when she's reunited with Ripley, she goes, "Mommy," and I was like, "Ooh, that's awkward."
Yeah, that does seem like a
didn't
little
notice
much.
that.
You call your teacher mom by accident. Hi, I'm Robin Zlotnick, one of the hosts of Bunk 237, a horror movie podcast. Our Apple Podcast reviews are suffering from an affliction we call only being written by members of my immediate family. Help us rectify this. All you have to do is not be a member of my immediate family and write a glowing review of this podcast. Let's beat this thing together.
Side effects may include remembering you have an iTunes account, watching too many horror movies late at night, feeling good about doing something nice, nightmares, and extra dry hands. Review us on Apple Podcasts today.
Let's talk about this supporting cast, because there's some real real winners in there.
Oh yeah.
I mean, obviously,
let's
Bill
start.
Paxton.
Ooh, yes.
Like,
Yeah, I want to make a note here
What a
that
guy.
On Nate's Zoom, he changed his name to
Yeah,
Thrill
Thrill
Paxton,
Paxton,
R.I.P.
R.I.P.
R.I.P. Seriously.
He was so good. I thought he was great
Always
comic
fun.
relief. Always very funny. The best
and like
lines.
what a career, because he was such like that like meathead doofus guy for several movies.
Yeah.
And then he like transitioned into like the Mormon dad nice guy roles like when he got older. It's just like, how did he do that? You know?
And then he was a Cameron favorite. Then he was also in Near Dark, also with the woman that plays Vasquez, by Catherine Bigelow, who I think married James Cameron after he divorced Gail Ann Hurd, or maybe they had been. I forget what their relationship was, but
I think you're right about
they
that.
share a lot of great cast people, actors, I guess you would call them.
For Burke, I had forgotten that Paul Reiser was in this movie, and right when he appeared on screen, I just wrote out, LOL, Paul Reiser.
I love Paul Reiser so much.
I do too, but he is a perfect scumbag.
Oh, he's so
perfect.
good. What a fucking
He is
snake.
absolutely perfect because he has such like a pleasant, like innocent face. He's like, I don't know, I just love money and I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, as the sort of like corporate guy that's just trying to fucking like catch a ride to finish off his life and be rich. It's like, oh, he's so good. He's so good.
And he should have had more roles like that. In fact, I have a badge specifically for Paul Reiser, the Mad About Burke badge.
Mad About Burke. Oh, that's good.
I was gonna
That's
guess
good.
it was Helen hunting down aliens or something.
Oh, that's good too.
Oh,
The rest of this episode needs to be Mad About You puns. Everyone go.
I had a similar Burke badge. Mine was just LOL death to Burke.
You know what? I did not think that his death was as satisfying as it could
It
have
really isn't. I
Oh.
mean, he just gets. I guess you can assume that he gets his face ripped out of his.
I guess you wanted to see more.
Right.
They were saving that. They were saving that for later.
But I mean, he's like the most villainous character in the entire thing.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got no loyalties. At least the queen is trying to defend, her hive. The drones are doing the same. They're just animals, basically, doing what animals do. Burke is actively trying to destroy the humans around him.
I loved how the second that she recovered from the face-hugging incident, she was like, it was Burke. He did it. He's
Oh,
the worst.
yeah.
Here's his entire plan.
I don't have a badge for this, but I did think about how Ripley is like the horror movie character that you want all horror movie characters to be, because she's smart, she's very aware, she doesn't fuck around. And it's like,
Yeah.
like as an audience, you're always yelling at them, but Ripley would never do that. There's that scene where her and Newt are like asleep in the lab. She she wakes up and she like figures out that one of the the valves is broken, and she wakes Newt up, and she's just like, and immediately, like not even a second.
Oh,
Usually,
yeah.
in horror movies, they're like kind of like, ooh, what's this? But she right away was like, Newt, wake up, we're in trouble. And that to me was just like, oh, hell yeah. That's the character that I think we all fantasize we would be in horror movies. Like, we want to be that smart. We're not, probably, but
Well, it is kind of an interesting, subversion almost of a final girl archetype, where you're like, because the whole reason that they bring Ripley on this thing is to be that person. She's there to tell them how to operate around this menace. So she, more than anybody, should be capable of just going, no, fuck this. We are not doing any of the stupid things that happened in the first movie. I was in that movie. I don't need to do that again.
That brings me to my second badge, which is the Ripley's Believe It or Not badge.
yes,
Because no one ever believes her.
That's-
And I felt like
yeah.
this throughout all of Alien and all of Aliens. And it's like, no, literally no one will listen to her.
Oh man, in that scene, like towards the beginning, where they she has to like present her case in front of the board or whatever.
Yes.
And they're like, oh, you destroyed all this company property and shit, like, and they're taking her pilot's license away.
Yeah.
Like,
And then
what do you think happened?
Totally.
Is there a record?
it like
or
in the scene, like a couple scenes after that, when she is like presenting, or she's like telling her story to the actual crew, and the crew, they're totally disregarding her, and Vasquez is like, whatever, and everyone is just like, they're just like, I've never seen an alien, even though they live fucking in the future, but like they're all disregarding her. And even like the superior officer who's like standing next to her, he just keeps saying, well, we have her report on disc. Like, he's not even backing her up. He's just like, we have her report on disc. And it's like,
We're in the second, we're 4 hours into this franchise. You know? And
4
nearly
hours and
60
57
years. Yeah.
like, we say this all the time on this podcast, but we're like, believe women
women.
in horror movies.
That's not what that saying is actually about. But
Oh, I gave this one the "We're all in, now pull the pin" badge for best consensual dual suicide by frag grenade in a movie.
oh, that was so good.
With Vasquez and I think Lieutenant Drake was the incompetent lieutenant's name. They're out of bullets. They got nowhere to go. Time to just, they
That was a
grab each
very
other's hands.
persistent alien
Yeah.
coming down that corridor.
The lady, do you guys know anything about the woman that plays Vasquez?
I do not.
Jeanette
No.
Goldstein. She has a very interesting career, and this is also possibly very problematic. Perhaps you thought Vasquez was played by a Hispanic woman.
Oh, no.
She was not.
Oh, boy.
She's a
Jeanette
very, very
Goldstein
white
does
woman.
not sound.
If you remember the film
1986, you guys.
in 86. Do you remember, if you recall, in Terminator 2, Judgment Day, the foster mom that gets stabbed through the milk and the face? That is also
Shane is
Jeanette
nodding his
Goldstein.
head vigorously.
She went out for this role. It's her first movie role. Apparently, she showed up. I don't know how she got to the casting, but she saw it was a movie called Aliens, and the character she was going out for was Vasquez. Mind you, she's an extremely white woman in Southern California. And she thought it was about illegal immigration. So
Oh.
she came prepared to play an illegal immigrant, somehow got hired. And
Is
there's
that
there's a
real?
moment. Yes, this is 100% real. But there's a line in Aliens
I
where
noticed
Bill
that.
Paxton, he says, she thought that they said illegal aliens, and she signed on board.
Yes.
And I feel like that must have been put in there because
As-
that's how she ended up getting into the movie.
That's
Oh
so
my
funny.
God.
That was also the action figure that I most wanted.
Was
out of
Vasquez?
The Aliens
Vasquez?
action figures was Vasquez. Yeah, she's, as a child, I did not realize that was basically a woman brown face. She just seemed like the coolest character besides Ellen Ripley.
Yeah.
Right.
Seems
right.
like now you could just get like a Barbie doll and put it in camo and a tank top.
Well, and that's what I did.
Also, side note, why do they have camo in space?
That is such a
yeah.
good question. It should look like stars.
The Cosmo camo.
I have a badge to award to the aliens. The World Goth Day badge to all the aliens and H.R. Geiger for being just early pioneers of techno goths and cyber goths and
Yeah.
just for like really getting in there with this sort of biomechanical kind of like aesthetic. You know what I mean? I mean, I like a dork. I looked this up because I was like, what year did 9 Inch Nails' Pretty Hate Machine come out? And it was 1989. So just saying.
Inspirational.
direct influence. I will say I found out that H.R. Geiger was not actually involved in Aliens. He was
it was,
really mad about it, but he was contractually obligated to Poltergeist 2. He picked the wrong sequel. So Stan Winston and James Cameron collaborated on the design and costumes and stuff for the aliens in Aliens.
Yeah, massive puppeteering feat to move that queen around. It was like
Yeah.
20 crew members or something. And it looks great. That's one thing I do need to say about this, because James Cameron, boy, loves his CGI. I wish that he never got into CGI. The practical effects on this, I think, hold up. Maybe they wouldn't hold up on a big screen. I was just watching it on a television.
Right.
But they still
I think they
look
hold up. Yeah.
phenomenal.
I love the aesthetic of the way the future looks in 80s movies, you know? Like, I love the sort of computer font and that all the computer screens are green. Like, it's all like that.
Right.
And they kind of have touch screens, but they still have joysticks, too.
I was actually thinking about that, too, while I was watching it, because there's a few scenes where they're using weird little control panels and stuff, especially once they get to the planet, everything seems, very, like, industrial 1980s, early 90s kind of push buttons and lights. But it doesn't seem out of character for a futuristic film.
Right?
Like, you think, well, they've got what, I'm sure that they have to just scrap things to rebuild them constantly out on this far-flung world.
Yeah.
So, of course, everything's this old, analog industrial
Yeah,
kind
I feel like when
mechanics.
you're terraforming, it's like, the loaders.
I was super impressed and into those little like calling cards that they gave that she like sticks in the card, and then it's just a video
the future
chat.
Tiger card.
Yeah. It's like, that's pretty cool. Going back to like the contraptions that they used and machines that they used, I have the 3-2-1 badge because James Cameron loves a countdown. There were so many times a countdown was being used for like suspense, a suspenseful effect, and it worked every time. There was that scene when they're in the ceiling and Bill Paxton is kind of like, they're 10 meters away.
Oh,
9, 8. And then at the end when Ripley's going crazy on them and you see the countdown of her ammo going down.
Yeah.
And they're like, there were
turret
more.
guns.
Yes.
Well, there's also just the pings of the radar, I feel like, carries the tension. Because,
well.
there's a bunch of great sound cues and big stings, but those pings, I mean, it's almost like the Jaws score.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Totally.
And I could hear
bing,
that.
Bing,
yeah.
bing, 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 bing.
That's such a smart, but really simple way to build tension with that before showing the monster. You know that there's an alien. From the title that there are multiple aliens. So you're just sitting there. You're sitting there.
Yes, totally. And you're listening to Ripley tell everyone there are aliens.
And having
Yeah.
no one.
And everyone not listening to her.
Speaking of Ripley, I have another one, which I just realized is another music themed one for some reason, because this movie reminds me of it. Was the Wicked Firestarter badge to Ripley? Because even though it's like in the future, they have technology, they have guns. It's sort of I think it's an interesting move that the main thing that kills them every time with these kinds of creatures is always fire. It's always fucking fire.
Well, I also had the note, acid blood is a real bummer. Because, even if you kill them, you got to run out of the way of the blood.
Yeah, totally.
Before you get totally ruined. That's just like a cherry on top of a shitty cake,
This is my last badge. The 10-minute warning badge, which goes to Bishop for getting killed in the last 10 minutes of the movie. And not just killed, but fucking torn in half. And I love a last scare. You're like, wait a second, this can't be just wrapped up so neatly like this.
Right. I had a similar badge. It was the android redemption badge. Because in Alien, the android is evil, right? And then, Ripley's real skeptical of Bishop up front.
Yeah.
And he turns out to be a
those
real
1
good...
and 2 models always were a little bit coochie.
yeah.
But I also loved how he got ripped apart and then they like stayed on his disgusting like milky innards
Also, again, like such
while
cool
Newt was giving him a hug and just getting it all on her.
practical effects is excellent. And I
Yeah.
do like Bishop's return in like later on in the franchise when he is still half a body. I always thought that was
my
I
God.
always thought that was a fun thing later on.
Yeah, that is the most gore in Aliens is
Yeah.
Bishop's death, vomit, milk.
Oh yeah. And there is something
stuff.
grosser about that milky white substance
Yeah,
than
right?
blood, right? Like blood is like cool, I've seen it, but
We've
something
seen a lot
about
of
this
it,
like
yeah.
gross android liquid that's like
Yeah.
because you can just feel how thick it is.
Yes. I think I was also like imagining how it must smell. I don't know.
Oh yeah,
right, 'cause
there's
it's-
no way that's good. It's old oil or something.
right,
Yes,
right.
Like
We've also seen so much alien acid blood. You're just worried, like, what is in Bishop's blood? Something weird.
Right.
Like, this is
right.
also bad to the touch.
Right.
It's getting absorbed into your bloodstream immediately.
yeah, and his guts were like a mix of like things that look organic and then like tubes, also
Tubes,
just like
yeah.
just so cool. Like so cool, so fucking gross. And like I've seen this movie before, but rewatching it, like I kind of forgot that scene, and so like when he gets like stabbed through the chest by the little alien tail, I was like, oh my god! And then just that like, oh, that fucking
She
rip.
rips him apart.
Yeah, that was like it got
so
me
brutal.
again. It got me again.
And he's like he's a robot. You never mind. I'm not
He
gonna
can
get
deal.
into it. We did not talk about Ripley's hair, which is incredible throughout the movie.
I love her hair.
And then at the end, when they're finally safe and they're on their way home or whatever, Shane turned to me and she's like, I was like, oh, she had time to get a perm before heading home. So it's like 3 inches taller than it was. Nate, do you have any other badges?
And this one might take a little bit of explaining. I'm giving this the October Revolution badge because I believe you can see this movie through a communist lens.
Ooh.
Oh,
All right, so
very interesting.
tell.
Yeah, please start.
all right, so Ripley, our hero, laborer from a mining ship in the first movie.
yes.
She's our proletariat hero, right? She's just pounded down by the corporation. The corporation's after her. Burke, this capitalist monster who's trying to entice her back, and he's like, look, we can give you your license back. All you got to do is do this little job for us. You got to come in with the military that the capitalists own to go and try to fight this weird imperialist hive. Right there, the capitalists want to destroy the monarchy, and they've got this proletariat hero trapped in the middle. And what happens when they send the military in? The military doesn't do shit. They're not prepared for this. They're not ready for this. Who knows how to fight the aliens? The proles who have been on the goddamn ground from the beginning. The laborers who put in the work in the first movie. They're carrying all the knowledge, right? So the military, they get kind of fucked. She immediately is like, you know what, capitalist Burke, eat shit. You are the real monster here. She literally says, I don't see them fucking everyone over for a percentage, right? She eschews the capitalist system. Now she has to deal with the monarchy. She's got Hicks on her side. Hicks, it should be noted, at one point, his armor gets all acidy up. He takes it off. Now he's on her side. He's the military who's dropped himself down to the proletariat to help with the actual struggle against the monarchy, against the queen, who must be deposed, for them to continue and give this knowledge to Newt, the character that has never been touched by the capitalist forces. She can carry on the communist ideology into the future. And when Ripley does fight the queen, ultimately, what's her weapon? It's the power loader. She's using the tools of her trade to topple the monarchy.
Oh my
Wait,
god.
that's incredible. You're
You're right.
100% right. You are
Holy
absolutely
shit.
right. Anyone that calls this like, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm clapping for this.
Holy shit. Yeah.
Yeah, anyone that calls this a fucking war movie or an allegory for Vietnam, like, no. No.
James Cameron did pitch it as Vietnam in space.
I know. Thank you, Nate, for coming on and talking to us about aliens.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for giving me another reason to watch this movie. It's been a while since I've seen it.
Yeah.
Oh, so fun.
Yeah, same. And it's a very good movie. It's like, it's such a fun movie. Yeah. It's still really good, really engaging. Ripley's really cool. Like, the aliens are fucking cool as hell. Like, I really enjoyed watching this movie again.
Fun. I was thinking about that while I was watching it, about how there's no missteps in this thing.
Right.
There's no wasted space. Especially like once it really starts picking up, like it's, it is nonstop.
Yeah.
Like there's not a single line of dialogue, even a line of Bill Paxton dialogue that feels like he's just saying shit on set.
No, yeah.
There was one really, really LA joke that made me laugh when they were in that like nest place, and one guy was like, "Man, it's really hot down here," and he goes, "Yeah, but it's a dry heat."
That's very good. That's very good.
Thank you so much, Nate, for coming on.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you want to plug? Tell us where we can find you on the internet.
There is a podcast that I do with my friends Jordan Dahl and Roger Norquist called Werewolf Radar. It's the world's premier paranormal preparedness podcast. If you like ghosts and monsters and aliens, actually the entire month of January we did alien stories. True ass alien stories and encounters, we do joke about them, but we come at it from a serious angle, as if we believed all the crazy shit that we're talking about. That comes out every Monday. Then we have news that comes out every Friday. And if you join our Patreon, we've got Grave Nuggets full of extras for you. We play Twitch games every Monday at 2 Mountain Time. If you want to jump on, we play horror games. It's very fun. You can play with us if you would like. That's the twitch.com/werewolfradar, or go to werewolfradar.com for a bunch of other stuff, or just go to your podcatcher and search Werewolf Radar, and you will find all of your paranormal preparedness needs.
Bunk 237, a horror movie podcast, stars Tuyet and Robin Zlotnick as the final girls of Bunk 237, and introducing Alex Skoke as camp director Susan Check. The show is produced by me, Shane Segretti. Our theme song is written and performed by Dan Zlotnick, and our outro music is written and performed by Axe Slasher. You can rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, and it may be featured on an upcoming episode. Have a badge of your own for this movie? Follow us on Instagram at Bunk237Pod and Twitter at Bunk237, and let us know. If you haven't already, please subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever podcasts are downloaded.